A couple years ago during the pandemic, the topic came up as to whether James Bond not only would not be white, but would not even be male. We find ourselves in this predicament now where now you have these news shows talking about who the next James Bond is going to be. What the next James Bond is going to be. As you guys know, my stance on this whole situation, I do not want James Bond to be changed. I'm someone that has enjoyed the James Bond movies. I do feel like the Daniel Craig movies are hit and miss. Some were good. Some definitely were not good. Skyfall was the one that I thought was actually really good. I actually saw that one in theaters too. But nonetheless, we're not here to talk about the context of these movies, of the 007 movies with James Bond. We're here to, we're not even here to talk about the context of the character of James Bond. We're here to talk about the color of James Bond. And right here, as you guys can see, if Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson had a baby, it would be this guy that we're looking at right here. And this dude who looks like he's already dead inside is going to try and sit here and lobby and give us a reason why we should have a James Bond that is not white. This guy seems like he couldn't even sit through a James Bond movie, let alone can give us 3 James Bond movies off the dome. Guaranteed you he couldn't do it. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into this because I got quite a bit to say about this. But so do these weirdos. So let's go ahead and get into this. Make sure you guys hit that like, that subscribe, all that good stuff.
Ellie Mistel. It's good to have you, Ellie. It's good to have you, Scotty. Thank you both. So, Ellie, the word must kind of bothers me. But what do you make of this situation?
Well, that's because people are making it up. Nobody is saying, oh my God, James Bond can never be white ever again. That's not the issue here. The issue here is that he's been white for like 6 actors, and now maybe it's time to open up the casting to like the global community. You'll notice.
See, this is what I don't understand. They talk about, oh, let's open it up to everybody else, but here is the thing. Over the past, I don't know how many, longer than I've been alive. I want to say longer than even my mom has been alive. James Bond's been around. And people of all types of backgrounds, people of all types of colors, races, geographical locations, whatever you want to call it. People from all over the world have, I wouldn't say look up to James Bond, but have loved the character of James Bond. Have loved the movies that James Bond has been in. And that's why I get so aggravated when people say, well, let's open it up, let's make it for everybody. Well, first of all, if you don't like the James Bond movies already, if you don't like the character of James Bond already, if you don't like the things that he does, the things that he stands for, all different kinds of things when it comes to the 007 movies in relation to the James Bond character, then you should have no say in this whole situation. You should not have any kind of opinion in this topic because you don't know who James Bond is. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the person or the people that are actually in charge of the IP for James Bond, didn't they come out years ago and say that we're not changing James Bond? James Bond is always going to be a white English male. I don't know. But now it seems like in 2023, we're hearing some rumblings that some insiders in the industry are singing a different tune.
That the people freaking out about the possibility that James Bond will be black did not freak out about the reality that they made James Bond blonde. Oh, I didn't hear anything about that. James Bond.
Nitpicking, fam. Nitpicking. You got this motherfucker on here asking, pleading for filthy fourths. I'm gonna stop saying sloppy seconds because I feel like way too many people say sloppy seconds. Same thing with hand-me-downs and so like. So I'm gonna just start saying filthy fourths. You want scraps. That's what you want. You want to be the dog sitting beside the owner at the table. And once the owner finishes, once these 7 actors finish playing James Bond, you want the rest of the food on that plate. Instead of saying, yo, I like James Bond. I love the character James Bond. He's a badass. He's cool. Instead, you want to say, this character James Bond, he's just not good enough. Do you know how long the James Bond character has been around? And now in 2023, because of virtue signaling is what keeps your job, or because virtue signaling is what gets you to keep your job, now you want to start lobbying for a black James Bond or a quote-unquote non-white James Bond? That's what you want to do?
Is supposed to be a dark-haired character. Sean Connery, black hair. George Lazenby, dark hair. Roger Moore, brunette. Timothy Dalton, black hair. Pierce Brosnan, black hair. Daniel Craig shows up with blonde highlights. Where was the freak out then? No, there wasn't.
I think people did freak out about that, though. Not me, because I don't give a fuck. But I think some people actually did start to freak out about that. I mean, James Bond is a very iconic character in film. So I'm pretty sure people were bitching and complaining when Daniel Craig showed up as James Bond.
It doesn't matter. They're trying to find a good actor to play James Bond, and they're opening up the casting. I don't see how anybody could have a problem with that.
Scotty Nell Hughes, why do you have a problem with that?
Well, I have no problem with that if that was what was actually happening. But you have an industry executive saying he won't be white, specifically calling out. And I think, once again, we are sitting here and we are putting race and gender as a priority over actually talent and merit.
Facts. I don't know who this bitch is, but facts. She's spitting straight facts. One thing we've been saying for years, right? They're putting color, they're putting background outside of even what the character even is over storytelling, over what the character is, over their merits. But instead, what they want people to do is they want people to go to these movie theaters and say, oh, he looks like me now. Oh, I'm going to go see it. They think that's going to work. If box office numbers have not told you guys anything over the past 24 months, at the least, then I don't know. I don't know what can help you guys, man. I really don't know how to get the point across to you guys. This shit does not work. These ingredients do not mix. When you take somebody like James Bond and deliberately get someone to play him that is not even fitting the bill at all, and you think you're gonna become a box office success, and the reason why I talk about the box office is because you need the money, you need that profit, you need your movie to make a profit to make the next movie. I'm telling y'all right now, it is going to be a dumpster fire if they make that decision on making James Bond not white. And if they make James Bond a female, if we get a Jane Bond,
and that is what the issue with this is. If Hollywood thinks they're going to continue to be woke and cover up their sins by the past by just recreating a character and putting a different skin color on them, I think that's actually insulting to the black community. How about you actually try some creative genius?
See, this dude's over here laughing. This Uncle Ruckus looking motherfucker is over here laughing. But the funny thing is, ain't nothing to be laughed about. She's right. Stop it. Create a different character. And I would go as far as saying, create an entirely different IP. An entirely different character, an entirely different story, and just put it under the same studio. I don't even care about that. And then have people say, oh, it's just a knockoff. I have people rumbling about it being a knockoff. This guy has a lot of the same similarities as James Bond. It don't even matter. If the movie's good, it's good. If the character's good, if people fall in love with the character, people are going to fall in love with the character. But at least it won't be James Bond. At least it won't be, they've made a black James Bond, or they've made an Indian James Bond, or a Mexican James Bond. Dead on arrival. As a matter of fact, it would be dead before arrival.
Come up with a character. Don't recreate 007. Recreate a character that is just as legendary. Start a new tradition. Continue to bring in new characters of wide diversity instead of just recreating the past. And let me just point out, any character
007
they
has
put
been
in there
recreated
is
6 times.
already... well, there's been 7 actors actually that have recreated him, and they've all been legendary. Start a new one. Start a new tradition. That's actually how you want to complement, and that is actually how you start to bring in new blood, new diversity in, instead of taking the old. Because guess what? Anybody you put in that role is going to fail compared to the past. And I don't care what skin color they are; they're never going to be able
That's
to
what
hold
they
up to
said.
standards.
That's what they said about. That's what they said about Daniel Craig, and then he wound up killing it. Hey, thank you for watching.
Here's the thing about that. So, I don't necessarily agree with her saying, like, if you put anybody in that role after Daniel Craig, that they're going to fail miserably. I think if you do what Uncle Ruckus over here is saying that they should be doing, which is the complete opposite of what they should be doing, you're pretty much breaking character, breaking canon. What else are you doing? You're breaking pretty much all the rules when it comes to James Bond by casting someone that's not white to play James Bond. That's just me. So I think, yeah, you're going to fail miserably if you don't follow the same fucking ingredients and rules that were already in place for James Bond over the last 50 plus years. Yes, you will fail miserably. But the biggest problem that we have is that with James, and not just with James Bond, I just got done talking about the How to Train Your Dragon shit. I was talking about the Miles Morales isms that people are starting to have as well after watching fucking Across the Spider-Verse. But tweets now mean more than actions. Virtue signaling now means more than fucking actions. These people don't make real sacrifices. And yet they're telling you that James Bond better not be white. And it's a shame that I'm sitting up here looking at old dude over here with the gray afro talking about we should open it up for everybody. James Bond has been for everybody. Mainly men. Mainly masculine men. I don't really want to go there because I hate talking about that shit. Like, oh, you're alpha male and all this other shit. Like, hey, a man is a man. But you want to go there, we can go there, old dude. And he clearly, because bringing up this whole topic and saying that you're going to open it up for everybody, this dude clearly cannot read a room. This dude clearly is not a James Bond fan. If he were a player in Madden, he'd have a 0 awareness rating. Because now, right now, in June of 2023, this is only a conversation and only a rumor. But in December of 2024, there just may be an announcement that the next James Bond is, I don't know, somebody like Donald Glover or some shit. And like I always say, man, there's a lot of people that look like me, that have the same background as me, that think the exact same thing. That we're tired of being pandered to as a race. Like I said, man, I'm not the dog sitting at the table or sitting at the edge of the table waiting for scraps. Get your own. Do your own thing. Make your own movie. Make your own version of James Bond that's not James Bond. And maybe you'll be happier as a person. Maybe you'll have some fucking happiness when it comes to the entertainment industry. Maybe you'll finally feel quote-unquote represented. But I already feel represented with a James Bond. I already feel represented with a Blade. Not because he's black, but because I like the character. I feel represented with the Punisher because I like the character, the Punisher. I like Frank Castle. But this is a clear lesson that there is no honesty left in the entertainment industry. Hell, there's not even any honesty left in the news industry in media, which I guess, to be honest, there probably never was. But this guy clearly knows that if he were to agree with old girl over here on the left side, when she says, fam, all they're doing is pandering. You don't need to change the race of someone. He knows that he will be crucified if he even remotely agreed with her. And that is the problem that we have now, not just in Hollywood, that's not just in the entertainment industry, but in media in general. In the world now in general, because that's all bled into the real world now. If you disagree with somebody, and if they have just a big enough fan base, or they have just enough fucking pull in the entertainment industry, you are done. There's no more agreeing to disagree, unfortunately. But I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think about this whole James Bond situation. Maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know. Hit me up in the comments. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, all that good stuff. It's your boy Corn, and I am OUT.